Hey everyone, it's Michael GoosebumpsFan. I hope you're doing well today. This is probably the last video you'll see from me until 2023, God willing that I live through the next week or so. And for right now, I have a ranking video for Invasion of the Body Squeezers. Of course, the way this series went, this trilogy went, we had two books, part 1 and part 2, back in the Series 2000 days. I think they're book number 4 and 5, yes they are, from Series 2000. And then we had a GYG book that actually, surprisingly, I just reviewed this today, before this video. Revenge of the Body Squeezers. It's special edition number 6 of the old Give Yourself Goosebumps book line. It's kind of a difficult book to get your hands on right now. That particular book is tied directly to the end of part 2 of Invasion of the Body Squeezers, which was kind of surprising when I started that. I kind of just expected it to do the typical Goosebumps thing and ignore basically everything that had happened previously, kind of like Not a Living Dummy typically does. But anyway, I'm going to rank the books from absolute worst to absolute best. There's not a whole lot to say because the 3 books themselves, they very much are not my favorite thing, if I'm being honest with you. One of them very much surprised me. In case you haven't seen that review yet, you'll get to it a little bit. This will have no spoilers in it, just kind of complaints, nitpicks, and some praise here and there for different things. But Invasion of the Body Squeezers I had kind of saved because they were a big part of 2015's movie for Goosebumps. So I kind of hoped that there was something special about them. Maybe some kind of reason that people liked those so much. Now, the design in the movie was really cool. I really liked the look of them. The design for the covers here and in the book themselves that are so different, I'm not that impressed. But let me be honest with you, the books themselves have a lot of lacking to them. And before I get too far in the review, I want to let you know, this big snowstorm is coming through. We don't have any snow yet, but in my part of Virginia, there's actually a lot of rattling windows in my old house. So, there's a window over here, and if you hear a lot of rattling and thumping, that's what that is. I don't think you'll hear it right now. I didn't do it in the previous video, but if you do hear it, you'll know what it is. I'll gesture to it to let you know. Anyway, let's get off with the worst of the 3 for me. Out of a lackluster trilogy, the worst for me is the one that I reviewed next to last. That one is Goosebumps Series 2000 number 5, Invasion of the Body Squeezers Part 2. Part 2 was a big letdown, dude. I was very curious where it was going because it opens up with some body horror. Basically, we find out that the aliens themselves look like they're going to try to hug you. And there's that little noise. You might have heard that rattling. Old windows, man. Anyway, we find out that the aliens are trying to hug people, and Jack goes into panic mode when he sees his teacher get hugged by an alien, and it sticks claws into his back and opens up his back and crawls into him. That is horrifying. There's some horrific stuff in this book involving that, because basically these aliens possess you, which is kind of cool. I kind of thought that was a neat idea. I'd never seen that in an alien story before. But that body horror aspect, I really expected it to go somewhere further, and it really doesn't. It really doesn't. I hoped that the story would expand a lot more on the scope, and I complained about that a lot in the previous 3 reviews. I think it's too much of a small-scale story. This book didn't correct that after book 1 had done that. Part 2 was the chance for improvement, to do something way better. The body horror stuff I appreciate. The rest of it, not so much. Not so much. Moving along to number 2, the less sucky on my list. This one is Invasion of the Body Squeezers Part 1. Yes, this one it let me down, but it was a fine start to technically a 300-page book. If you want to include Part 1 and Part 2 as one big book, this is the first 150 or so pages of it. And I expected more out of this. I really did. For 120 or 130 pages, I was expecting more for this to be a better book. And it really kind of let me down. It wasn't a horrible read. It didn't have any body horror stuff really to it. But I like this idea of our main character, Jack, kind of being suspicious of his next-door neighbor, Mr. Fleshman, and him kind of being an old Hollywood special effects guy, apparently, back in the day. And those kinds of things are really cool. I like that stuff. I can't stand the little sister in Part 2 or in Part 1, this particular book right here, Billy. She is awful. She whines and cries, and you just want to punch her face in. I can't stand that chick. Billy is awful. Truly an awful character, one of the worst characters in Goosebumps ever. She always tells lies constantly. That drives me nuts too. Everything is super exaggerated. She's too much. She's too much. I'm too old to deal with that. Can't handle it. Part 1 is a mixed bag. Yes, I wish it was less childish. Yes, I wish it had a bigger scope to it. I like the body horror stuff in part 2, but I think overall I enjoyed this book more just because it was kind of a bland Goosebumps book. The other one, part 2, was kind of just a bad book. There's so much bad stuff happening to Jack that I'm like, why would you choose to go do this when all of this other stuff is happening to you? Or you know this other stuff is going to happen to you, or your family, or whatever. Why would you not go to a further extent to try to prevent all these horrible things from happening? Why would you even go to school in that situation with an alien invasion you suspect is real? Stupid. Just stupid choices after stupid choices in part 2. Part 1 has a little bit of that too, but part 2 really had more of that made it worse to me than part 1. But that is my opinion on that. Let's go to the least surprising pick for number 1 in this trilogy that you could ever see, especially if you saw my review for this book just uploaded right before this. Because I think the number 1 out of this trilogy of books is the Give Yourself Goosebumps book that came out of this trilogy of body squeezer stuff. This one is number 6 of the special edition Give Yourself Goosebumps books, Revenge of the Body Squeezers, the third and final one to get released. Revenge of the Body Squeezers is a GYG book, a Choose Your Own Adventure book if you don't know what that is, and it's fun. It's really fun. I like it a lot. It has a lot going for it. It's definitely above average. I kind of leaned to giving it a higher score than I did, but I kind of settled on a pretty above average rating for it. I won't tell you that here in case you want to go check out the review itself. But overall, it was really fun. It picks up directly after part 2, like I said, and I really love that about it. It's a really good take on an alien invasion story because it's kind of like a bomb thriller type story. The idea that there might be a bomb somewhere in the city, in like LA, I think is what it said, where you're trying to go on a massive hunt to go find this thing because this bomb will go off at like 10 a.m. the next morning, not too long after Christmas, like before New Year's. And this bomb that'll go off is from the aliens, and it's basically going to squeeze the entire population of humans into like a tennis ball size per person. And that's horrifying, because you're not dead. You know what's going around. If you're dropped, you feel it. There's some cool little things like that in here. I wish the body horror stuff from part 2 was still here. You can argue the tennis ball body squeezing thing could be that. To me, it's not as effective as claws on your back, opening up your back, and then something crawling into you and possessing you. That, to me, really gets to me. But this was really a cool story. I enjoyed it. I think it's a lot better than part 1 and part 2. I don't know if I said it in this review or in this ranking video or my review for this book right before this, but I think the Body Squeezers books, part 1 and part 2, would have been better as their own GYG book, and then this could have been its sequel. I really do think it would have pulled off a lot better, that whole idea. I think this is the proof of that, frankly. Anyway, Revenge of the Body Squeezers is my number 1 pick out of this trilogy. I think it's the best of these really rough picks here. This is not like an amazing book or anything either. This just easily toppled everything else that came before it because it just knows how to have fun with an alien invasion story that's not really too focused on aliens to begin with. It's more about the situation that the aliens have put you in and the whole city in. That stuff is fun. I have a good time with GYG books in general. So that is my ranking on the Invasion of the Body Squeezers books. I am done with those. Like I said, I won't be putting up any more videos until 2023, January. So I hope to see you then. I hope you'll tune in and subscribe and whatever if you haven't already. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you'll tell me what your favorites are from this particular trilogy. Did you love one over the others? What's your ranking on them? I'd love to hear all that down in the comment section down below. Because I love when you guys comment on these ranking videos and update me on what you think and what you feel and whatever. That's cool stuff. But anyway, thank you guys for watching my ranking for the Invasion of the Body Squeezers books. I hope you had a good time. I've got reviews for all of these books separately, just in case you guys happen to be new to the channel and you don't know that. So anyway, thank you for watching. God bless you all. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and goodbye.